We are recording, so I will start and say welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on our 51st IMB panel, this one about parenting in the music industry. We are so glad and extremely grateful and privileged to be able to broadcast this from where OMIC is based here in Ottawa in the unceded Algonquin territory. The independent music business is a partnership between the Ottawa Music Industry Coalition and Edwards Creative Law, and we get incredible support from the City of Ottawa and Ontario Creates for which we are also very grateful. If you haven't heard about OMIC before, we are a nonprofit based out of Ottawa, and we have some really exciting stuff happening sort of right now, actually. The Capital Music Awards have opened up their nominations, and the actual event will be taking place on June 1st. So if you'd like to support local music and celebrate the incredible art that's coming out of the city, please head to ottawamic.com/CMA and place a nomination for someone that you admire. With that, I think we can just jump right in. I'm going to introduce Tara Shannon, who will be hosting this panel, moderating it, and I'll pass it on over to you, Tara.
Thanks, Graham. Hi, I'm Tara Shannon, and I'm really happy to be here. I'm a board member with OMIC, and I'm an artist, and I have a label and a publishing company, and I also do a lot of music business education with a company called The Syndicate, which I founded. And I'm really excited to have this conversation with our amazing guests here. So I'd like to just throw it to each of them one at a time and just have them introduce themselves to you. And if you could tell us a little bit about what you do in music, just to get us started, that'd be great. JD Edwards is here with us from Winnipeg.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, my name is JD. I'm a singer-songwriter. I perform in a duo, The Small Glories, with myself and Cara Luft. Here in Winnipeg, I have my own band, the JD Edwards Band, and we've been playing for over a decade. And I do a lot of solo work, a lot of writing work, a lot of recording work with other artists as well. I have 3 kids, 8, 6, and 4, Charlie, Harry, and Junie, and they are a handful.
Those are great names. I love those names. That's awesome.
Thanks.
That's great. Well, thanks so much for being here. I can't wait to hear your insights on this topic. We have Céleste Lévis with us here from Ottawa.
Yeah, hi, everybody. I'm really happy to be a part of this discussion. I'm a singer-songwriter. I also produce music with my husband as well. He's my guitarist. We work together for our own projects and with some other artists as well in the Franco-Ontarian community. And I'm a new mom. So my baby, who's called Samuel, is 6 months old. So I'm kind of discovering everything that has to do with bringing a baby along with us and trying to keep going. So it's I'm excited to hear everyone's thoughts on this discussion. Really happy to be here.
Well, thanks so much, Céleste. And we have Maggie Szabo all the way from LA with us today.
Hi, I'm Maggie. Also, pleasure to be here. I'm a recording artist. I release my own music under my independent label, and I write for other artists and projects, and I do a lot of music for film and TV. I'm from Dundas, which is beside Hamilton, and I have an 8-month-old baby boy named Beckham. So yeah, that's my story.
Wonderful. I love the baby stage.
So cute.
And we have the wonderful Julian Taylor here with us from Toronto. Hello, sir.
Hello, how are you? Okay. Excellent. I'm Julian Taylor, and I'm from Toronto. There you go. And it's nice to be on the panel and see some familiar faces and some new faces. I've been playing music professionally for the last 25 years. I own my own recording label and manage myself. I've been managing myself for 2 decades now, and used to be in a band called Staggered Crossing, and then was in the Julian Taylor Band. I do some feature stuff on other people's tracks, and I'm a singer-songwriter, and I have my own solo career under the name Julian Taylor. I have one daughter, she's 11. Her name's Ella, sorry, okay.
Ella. Oh.
I'm not used to, yeah.
Great. Well, we're just thrilled to have all of you here. So thank you so much for making time for this. So I do have children as well. I have 7. I have 5 boys and 2 girls, which is why Melanie and I had a good laugh about this panel. She's like, "You think you want to do it?" I'm like, "Maybe."
Girl, you should.
Whoa.
7
Seven.
kids.
I
Good for
do, yeah.
you.
So it's a bit chaotic. They are usually the questions I get are, "Oh, you're a blended family." I'm like, "Nope." And then they're all mine. And then the next question is, "Oh, did you have like multiples?" And I'm like, "Nope, all one at a time."
Okay, you just need to talk the whole time.
Yeah, I agree. This is your panel.
We're
We
here
have
for
no
you.
business being here.
No, not at all, because the chaos is the same, whether you have 1 or 7 or 12.
No,
Not sure about that. Yeah.
I don't think so. No.
It's pretty
7
crazy.
is,
It is, yeah. So the first
I feel like
question
the
I wanna ask
vehicle
you-
is larger if you have 7.
It is.
Multiple
It feels
vehicles.
much longer. Now, in fairness, my kids they've all grown now. So my eldest is 30 and my youngest is 16. So they're mostly all out of the house. But it's been an interesting journey for sure, raising kids and trying to find ways to be in my music career. And I chose to pause my music career.
what about sleeping?
Yeah, there's no sleep. Well, there wasn't a lot of sleep when they were little. I'm getting lots of sleep now, which is so
Okay,
nice.
you're making up for lost time. Wow.
Yeah. So for you guys, it's if I'm correct, you had a music career and working in music before you had children. So what is the one, if you could name one difference, one sort of noticeable difference that comes to mind with the before and after with regards to your music career, what would you say? JD?
What's the noticeable difference? Like the amount of energy that I have. I mean, every day is exhausting. But maybe more it's time. It's time put into the creative. For me it had to get dialed back, or it has been dialed back. Or I've had to more like schedule it, really. The only time that I really get to be creative is when the kids are at school or at their daycare or whatever, or if I'm on the road. But then if I'm on the road, it doesn't always happen either, because there's so many other things that take priority.
Exactly. Yeah. just
So
the
probably
pocket-
time.
Yeah, the pockets of time, like having
Yeah.
to schedule them more instead of going with the flow sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard
What
to.
about you, Celeste?
Yeah, I think on my end, it's really having to put something or someone else first. We've had the chance to bring our son on tour with us. So I think it was just that, even just before going on stage, you used to have time for yourself to get in the mode and everything. But now I'm breastfeeding before going on stage, so it's just a whole different mindset of no, he's what's important, and then I'll do everything I can to give everything afterwards, to make sure he's okay first.
Yeah, that's changing up the way they have to think about needs, right? It's like now it's the kids first and then you.
Yeah.
For sure. Maggie, what about you with your new little one?
I've gotten much better at time management. So like now when I schedule my days, I just feel like in that time where I've scheduled like, hey, I'm in the studio until 7 p.m., I'm like super efficient in that time now. Whereas before, like I would have more time to like have conversations with people, and now it's like straight to business. So I feel like that's a skill I've really improved on. And then another noticeable thing is I am more aware of what I'm saying yes to. And I feel like I really only want to work with people and work on projects that I feel like are really going to benefit me more in the long run. And I really am more aware of, working in situations that might just be a waste of time, or working with people who might be more of a waste of time. And I just don't have time for that anymore. So I've gotten really good at that.
Yeah, getting selective, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really choosing, okay, what's
Yeah.
going to matter, and yeah,
Exactly.
for sure. And that ties into what JD is saying, is like you have limited pockets of time now.
Yeah.
You have to give your time to other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. And Julian, what about you?
I would have to say that certainly I started to take my music career a bit more seriously after I had children. And I don't know how to really express what that actually means, because I did take it seriously before. Perhaps it comes into like what everybody else is saying about time management, about what I spend my energy on, and who I spend my energy with. Maybe that's where that focus came from. I also found that my work changed a lot. The things that I would reflect on and the things that I would write about certainly did change as well. They weren't so egocentric, and they were a bit more worldly in terms of what was going on around me. And I paid a little bit more attention to those things, certainly after I had a child.
Yeah, you really do see the world a bit differently. It changes our lens, and our experience, which is a really good point. So talk about your partners, your co-parenting partners in this. So I'm curious, one thing that I see a lot in my work with clients and coaching is there's an extra stress factor around two things: around the co-parenting and deciding who takes what tasks and what responsibilities to leave room for the creative for you. And also the financial piece pops up a lot, because now you're a family unit and now you have to be thinking financially about these little humans that you have brought into the world and their futures and their stability and stuff. So what has been your experience on those two elements? So just the co-parenting together, and then the change in your financial plans. JD?
First of all, my wife Jenna, she is a registered clinical social worker, and we've had to really lean on one another over the last few years. Up until now, we've really, my wife's been going through and getting her master's and doing a lot of school and really beginning her career. So we've had to really really lean on each other and really set time aside for these things. Before we had kids, she was, I really kind of had the run. I was able to go and do whatever, tour, do writing sessions and that whole bit without having any really consequences, except for being away. But now it's different. So we've had to really just stay connected when we're out on the road, and really work hard when I get back to try to fill in for last time, and make sure that she gets a break where she can, because as much as I like to think that going away I'm just working, there's also that element of just me having a break from the kids, and that's it's difficult for her to just all of a sudden have to take care of 3 kids for the next 2 weeks or whatever it is. So when I'm back, we try to really give that back. Not that she goes out for 2 months or 2 weeks or whatever, but at least she has more time to do whatever she needs to do, and I have to kind of take a bit more of the load when I come back from the road. So it's just about sharing and time management. Financially too, we just try to work our asses off to get as much money as we possibly can, and without affecting the family too much, because we love being together and all that. So
Yeah, the communication piece is so important, because everything
it's
is
so
possible
key.
if you have really good communication and honesty and respect, and it makes the conversation around sharing the load and also financial decisions, like how much money to put towards recordings and stuff like that,
Absolutely.
easier to manage.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, there's a lot of we've got to really it's really coordinating schedules and coordinating calendars and making sure everyone's on the know, and if any, just so that there's no left hooks out of nowhere, and everyone knows what's going on, and that's including the kids too. The kids all know what's going on at all times, because they need to know when dad's going to be away or when mom's going to be away, and for how long, and how they're going to have to react to that, because they have to take on a little bit of responsibility of their own.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And it's better if everyone is just in the know about it. If everyone
Yeah.
is understanding and they know where I am, and then when we're away, it's a lot of communication. You know, we're just so grateful to have like Zoom or whatever, FaceTime. Those things are really key. Although it's incredibly difficult to try to parent through those mediums. Like every time that I call back home, stuff is going on, but it's really difficult to parent through the machine. And so that whole element there is there too. Like,
Can somebody write that song, please?
Yeah, right. Parent to the
let's do it,
machine.
Julian. We'll do it, bud.
So thanks for that, JD. That's awesome. Céleste, you and your husband both work in music. You're both musicians. So how are you doing on the communication and sharing the load and, you know, making your financial decisions together?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of conversation before trying to have our first kid, and I think it's the fact that we're both on stage at the same time was a big challenge, because of course we need someone to help us while we're both working, right? So we're very lucky to have a lot of family support. To this day, you know, it's been going great. We've always had someone to help us out. I think we still have a lot of things to figure out in different situations that will come in the next few months. I'm sure we haven't lived everything yet. That's for sure. I don't think we ever will, but no, so it's been going good for that. Of course, I think the hardest thing is trying to, you know, just to not always be working, just the fact that we work together all the time, you know, so that'll be a big challenge as well when it comes to writing, because we both have our separate projects, trying to be as supportive as I can as well for him when he has opportunities come up. But it is always just a big discussion and trying to plan ahead with what's about to come, because we do have to think about someone else now. And and financially, I think once again we got pretty lucky, because my husband ended up getting a new contract where he could work from home as well, which was a big help for that as well. So we're just hoping it keeps going that way. And yeah, we're working very hard to make sure that we always have contracts coming up, and it's going well so far.
That's awesome. Yeah. And when your partner, when you guys are in the same business and you're essentially running your businesses together, like your music, remembering to have date night will be the challenge, where it's like, no talk about music, no talk about the child. Let's just remember who we are as people together, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. Maggie, what about you in your co-parenting partnership?
Well, I just want to say it's so nice being able to have these conversations, because like 99% of the people I work with, like writing and producers, they don't have kids. So like, you know, I never get to talk about this stuff and have open conversations like this. But so for my partner, he's in medicine. He's just finishing up his residency. He's a radiologist, but he actually lives in Chicago and I'm based in LA. So I've been like kind of single momming it. And he's done his contract there. He's coming back here in June. So the first year that we're in the thick of it has been like insane. And my family's all in Canada, and he had 2 weeks of paternity leave. So the first 2 weeks I was able to have him here and have his help. And then after that, I was kind of just on my own. But luckily I was able to find a great nanny for my kid. And I was in a situation where I was able to financially support that. And it's just been motivating me to even work more. So yeah, it's definitely been a lot. Like, I feel like it's kind of just been a blur up until now. But like, he's 8 months now, and I feel like now it's kind of like we're getting into a routine, because he goes to bed kind of at a certain time every night, and hopefully sometimes he'll sleep through the night. So we're kind of getting into like a little bit of a rhythm. But yeah, I feel like the main thing right now is just obviously the communication, and having Zoom and FaceTime has been really great for my husband, so he can kind of feel involved and be involved in all the milestones and stuff. And then come June, I'm sure life will be a lot easier having both of us here in one place. But we did, being long distance, and even long distance with my family and stuff, by the time my kid was like 3 months old, he was on like 12 flights. So, so he traveled a lot, which is cool.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, you touched on a good point. It's support, right? The
Yeah.
support part is like, if you're lucky enough to be near your family and you have that kind of relationship with your extended family where they're helpful, it makes all the difference.
Yeah.
Having a nanny, we had lots of nannies throughout the years, with our kids too, and that was a saver for sure.
Yeah.
And that's just a really big part of it. And I suppose, with your husband being sort of long distance right now, the communication, again, you're communicating through the machine,
Yeah.
and trying to keep that connection going.
Totally.
Which takes some, a different kind of energy.
Yeah, I know. Because even like my parents want to see the baby, his parents want to see the baby. Obviously, my husband needs to see a baby. So like, I feel like so much of our time once I'm home from the studio, and by the time the baby goes to bed, it's just saying hi to everyone on the phone.
Yeah,
That's the whole thing. So it's fun and it's cool. But yeah, and I think like I went back, like I think I took maybe 4 weeks, kind of mostly off, but I was like really ready to get back into the swing of things again. So like luckily I was able to just find a great nanny that I trusted, and it just worked out, thank God, because I don't know what I would have done.
Yeah.
I have no idea. So yeah,
exactly.
for sure.
Well, thanks for that. And Julian, how are you guys making it work?
My situation's a little different. I don't have someone who lives with me, and my partner and I have been split for quite a long time. And we have joint custody of my daughter. And on top of that, I mean, during the pandemic, I ended up breaking up with another partner that was living with us. So there's a few cast of characters involved in my situation, which is a little bit stressful. I won't lie, but everybody's supportive of each other, which is wonderful. So it's a bit tricky when it comes to time spent away. I was away for the first time for a month just recently. And it was the longest time that I've been gone since my daughter was born. She's 11 now. And my parents had her for some of the time. Her stepmom had her for some of the time, and her mother had her for some of the time. And so we were relying on all of that to get through. It was hard being away, and I don't think for the next little while I will go away for that long, because when I did come back, well, now what's happened is I have her for the next couple of weeks, and so that alleviates some people from that stress. But I think that sort of that connection through communication over a device is really, really tricky. Especially I was basically 7 hours away. So the time difference was so drastic that I could only really catch her in the mornings, or when it was really, really late, when I was, going to bed. So I'm just happy to be home. I don't really financially, it's hard as well, because there's a bit of a stress on me there. And it's something that I have to take care of every single month, and that's okay. But I do that because I believe it's the only way to get through this. And we're, like I said, there's no animosity over here at all. It's just all support. It's just really tricky navigating schedules and time, and that can take away a lot of your energy as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel very fortunate to be in the situation that I am. I wish I was in a different situation so that I could talk about that, because I mean, when I was with my ex, she would be here to support in every way, because she was living here, but she's been very supportive away from home as well.
Yeah, and it's, family comes in all different, configurations and stuff, and what that support and the people we lean on to make this life that we're building for ourselves possible, can be any kind of combination of things. And I think it's you said it well when you said to be grateful, for the people that you do have around you.
For sure, it takes a village. It takes a village.
It does. It does take a village. And I come from an experience where my partner, my ex-husband, was not supportive of music. So it wasn't an environment. So for my experience, it was a constant stressor to keep pushing forward in this vision that I had for myself and my life. with this resistance in the space, and also you know, the demands of our family, you know, being obviously a stressor. So, you know, I haven't had the experience myself of being in a supportive partnership where there was, you know, that kind of really good communication and just, you know, support to make music. I've had to really push and fight and sort of claw my way and be like, keep saying, you know, no, this is the vision for my life that, you know, that I really want. And so, yeah, there's all, I think, you know, in the navigation of the co-parenting situation, it can go from, you know, supportive and honest, good communication all the way to, you know, there are people out there that really struggle with that. And it's difficult to talk and have those conversations. And the thing about music, man, is like, if music is in you and it's just woven into the fabric of who you are, it's really difficult to not have it in your life or express it some way. And I tried that myself. I tried cutting it off and saying, okay, this is too stressful, I'm not going to do it. I took a break for a bit, and then I've
done that.
Yeah, but I became unwell. Like, I was physically, mentally, and emotionally sick, like very ill. And then I made the connection that I'm like, I can't cut music off. Like, I might not be a rock star and I might not ever be, you know, famous or successful on that level, but music is an integral part of who I am as a being. And I have to figure out how to have this in my life somehow, you know. So that for me, there was that switch, you know, that just that came in, you know, because sometimes you just have to, you know, just have that recognition.
And Tara, I was just gonna say, like, the music business is already so tough and difficult, and the industry is, you know, you often feel like it's working against you in so many ways. And the fact that you were still, you know, pushing through even with an unsupportive partner, just goes to show how resilient you are, because that's amazing that you know, knew yourself well enough where you're like, I have to keep doing this because it's already hard enough. And then when you pile that on, it is.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Actually, let's dive into that a little bit, just the concept of sacrifice a little bit, because where in your lives have you felt that feeling of sacrifice, you know, when you make choices for the wellness of your kids or your family unit or your partnership, you know, because I was chasing that record deal and was offered that record deal, and I had my three oldest were young, and I made a choice along the way because I didn't understand this thing I was chasing. I didn't understand what it actually meant to sign a record deal. I knew nothing about the business. And when it was being explained to me, I was like, wait a second, like 2 years, no family, no friends, being out there on the road. Like, I didn't want to miss out on being a mom. And for me, I felt like my calling as a mom was first over music. And so I made a choice in my path at that point, and it had an element of sacrifice to it. So is there something in your lives where you've had that moment where you've had to make a choice, and, you know, for the well-being of your kids, and it felt a little bit like a sacrifice for you? JD?
I don't know. I mean, I don't get to buy guitars all the time now. I know that sounds so stupid. I've really tried not to change my life too much. I mean, I've always had this goal of working in music and to touring and performing and writing, and that stuff really hasn't changed. I guess the sacrifice is not going out on the road full time. Right now, after the pandemic, the Small Glories, we stepped back from touring because we were going pretty hard and touring really around, like, all across the continent and Australia and Europe. And we were doing lots, like tours were like 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Julian, you were talking about being away, 7 hours away. I know exactly what that's like. We went to Australia, and we were supposed to go for 4 weeks. And then the agents were saying, hey, do you guys want to go to Tasmania? Like, do you want to extend it? And it was really difficult to decide to do that. It was all money, really. We were like, okay, we're making more money, then that's okay to do that. But it was really difficult to be away for 6 weeks, 7 weeks.
That's fine.
And I mean, like we had to really weigh the odds. Like, well, we're gonna make a good money, and that's important. You know, when I stepped back and looked at my family, I went, "This is good for the family. We need this money. It's gonna help for all sorts of things, but it's gonna be hard to be away." But I know that we have a great relationship with our kids, and they are very resilient. So we're gonna make it through. And I'm going to make up the time from when I get home. But so, I guess I'm not sure about how much sacrificing I am away from our job. We want to take reign of our job, reign of our careers musically, and balance that out with our family. So instead of going out for 3, 4, 5 weeks at a time, we just have 2-week breaks. We book 2 weeks of music, or, give or take. And then we're home for 2 weeks.
Mhm.
And then we're going to go out again, instead of trying to mash it all into 2 months or whatever it is, and then stay home forever. So
Yeah, maybe a better word is trade-off, because the way you're describing it sounds like it's a trade-off, like you're making
Yeah.
choices as opposed to, sacrifice, really.
yeah,
Yeah.
I guess we sacrifice a lot of other things in our social life, because when I come home, it's home time.
Yeah.
Dad's home. We are doing stuff together. Dad's dropping them off. Dad's making lunch. Dad's whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot less like social time. A lot of our social time happens when we're on the road. That's when we're seeing friends. That's when we're, talking to strangers and fans and all sorts of things. And that's social stuff. Doesn't
Right.
happen a lot when I'm at home.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe that's the sacrifice. I don't know.
Yeah, or just it's the recognition that in that pocket of time when you're on the road, that's when you're going to get your social fix and your connection with friends and people and that kind of thing. And then you're really focused on being a dad when you're home. And I think that your kids, I think the kids really benefit from that. I think there's one thing that I've learned being a parent is that I wish I could go back and just be more present to them in that moment and not be distracted by everything else, and just just be present with them. And it sounds like you're carving out that time.
We're really trying to. We're really, it was mentioned earlier how the music industry is really hard and it's really tough and it takes a toll on people. Well, we wanted to say no more of that. We don't want it to be that way. We don't want to be dragged along in this game that's been going on forever. It's our life, it's our career. We're going to carve it and decide what we're going to do and when we're going to do it.
Yes.
And because I have a family, and my colleague Kara, she doesn't have any kids. She's not connected at all. Doesn't have a family, so it's different for her. So, but we have to balance it out. I can't be away. It's very difficult to be away for 6 weeks, and not so much for the kids, more for my wife, really. I mean, the kids will be fine, like they'll be fine.
Mhm.
But it's really difficult for my partner because she has to do everything.
She's carrying it. Yeah, absolutely.
So.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that. Celeste, what about you guys? Like, do you feel a sense of sacrifice or a trade-off because you have children and you're doing the music thing?
Yeah, I guess it's more when it comes to myself, though. Like, of course, I knew while being pregnant, seeing some contracts coming in and realizing how close it was to giving birth, and I sometimes think like, oh, maybe I should have just enjoyed the moment as well of being home and just taking care of my baby and putting music off to the side for a little bit. So it's I feel like maybe more on that end, not sacrifice necessarily, but maybe just enjoying those moments a bit more without feeling the pressure of having to put something new out and having to be back on tour or doing shows or being present, so I think it's more in that sense. But we've also had the best times bringing, having the whole family with us, doing shows and stuff. I think that's a time I'll never regret, that's for sure. But you see how quickly time goes by and you already are thinking like, oh, I miss them when they were so little, and maybe I should have given more of myself at that time to just enjoy the moment, and not think of what's next in music.
Yeah, it's tough though, like to Maggie's point and JD's point, and the music industry is insane, and there's this feeling all the time of rushing, and that there's this race and we're all like competing or racing towards something, which is madness. So having that sort of internal, that monitoring thing inside yourself, monitoring your emotional state in that, and saying, okay, I'm just going to take a minute and enjoy an afternoon or a day with my little one, because I won't have this time forever, but just being able to feel at peace with that and being okay with that, and not have anxiety because you'd be missing out on an opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. It helps us to prepare maybe for the next one, hopefully. But no, it just makes you think of everything and what's really important, what you need, and what works with you and what doesn't. And it's been a big learning curve, and the best one yet.
That's awesome. What about you, Maggie? Do you have that sense of sort of, sacrifice or giving something up or having to make different decisions?
I guess going into it, I never wanted to feel like I was having to give something up. So even like, I always knew I wanted to have kids, like forever. But obviously like music was always, my passion and my dream and what I always wanted to do as well. And in my mind, with being a female in the music business, there's still that stigma about, being pregnant and having kids. And that always gave me a lot of anxiety. So like, I didn't really know going into it, like how I was gonna balance that and manage that. And so that was probably my biggest struggle, was like, I don't know how this is going to work. And I don't want my career that I've worked so hard for to have to take a backseat. So my mentality always going in was like, I want to try and not have to, sacrifice or not pull back, but just get really great at managing both. And so even I remember when I found out I was pregnant, I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to post any of this on social media. Like, this is just going to be another side of my life that I'm not going to share. And then as I got further along in my pregnancy, I realized like everything I stand for is like a female in this business, and like, equal rights. I'm like, I'm literally, by me not talking about this and putting it on a platform, I felt like I was doing a disservice, because like, we should be talking about this. So I started like being more open about it, and just being, pregnant and showing up at writing sessions. Like, I was 7 months pregnant and I went to writing, like for a writing trip to Nashville, and like me waddling into the studio, like was, it was like part of my journey as a songwriter. And at like, I think I was like, it was 2 weeks before my due date. I had written a song and it had made it into Eurovision, which is like this writing competition, whatever. And the song was doing really well. It was taking off. And I like, it was kind of one of my goals over the last few years to have a song in Eurovision. And I was like 2 weeks before I was due, and I went to my doctor. I'm like, can you please just like give me a doctor's note? Let me fly to Eurovision. Like, I want to go see it so bad. And she's like, I'm sorry, no. That was probably like that was like one thing I literally could not go to. So, but it was fine. I watched it on TV, so it's okay. But that was probably like, one thing I had to say no to.
Well, I mean, it's such a good point, Maggie, because as the women, as the moms, there's a physical sacrifice for us.
Yeah.
Literally, it's our body that has to make it happen.
Yeah.
So, that was, a great example of, an extra thing that the women artists have to deal with when we choose to have a family, because we're going to be sidelined physically for a certain amount of time.
And it's funny because even like the day my water broke, the day I went into labor, I was at the studio and I was actually in labor cutting vocals. But I'm like, we have to finish the song. I don't care, because I don't know when I'll be able to come back. And like, but yeah, it was fine.
I know. The life of a mom artist,
Yeah, for real.
That's awesome. And congrats on the Eurovision thing. That's huge.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Big, yeah.
And Julian, for you during the years, what have you seen elements of having to do trade-offs or a feeling of sacrifice sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly, again, it's time for sure. Everybody's talked about that. And I think that what I've learned now over the last little while is that time with our children is extremely precious. I would choose my child over music any day, no matter how much I adore music. I would quit in a second if it meant that I needed to be somewhere with my child more frequently and more with more time and energy. Like I said, I'm grateful and fortunate enough to have a supporting cast around me that believe in what I'm doing and want to support me. My child supports me as well in doing that. But being away is probably the hardest thing. I would say that it's kind of that same old story that the sacrifice of being an artist is, you know, you'll do anything for your art. And I've learned that I won't do anything for my art. I'll do what I can. But I'm slowly, it took me a long time to learn that. And I'm still, you know, working through that. I think that the biggest sacrifice would be my energy and my health. And that means physically and mentally. Mentally, it's very difficult to be away from home. And mentally, and emotionally, that's very taxing on the body as well, because any sort of form of you know, sadness will affect you. And so the other thing is, like, you know, I like what JD said about, you know, intervals and trying to, like, this past month when I got back, my daughter and I had a chat, and she said that was really long, and I said, yeah, I know, it was really long for me too. And so I think that maybe when she's a bit older, that won't be so long, but I'll be able to go for longer. By that time I'll be older, so I might not even want to. So I don't know. I don't think there's too much of a trade-off, other than the fact that it's all in my own head and my own heart, trying to battle with my own demons and decisions, really, and how they affect other people in my life. I want the relationships in my life to be strong and fruitful, and I'm trying to nourish them the best that I can, but you can't nourish them if you're not there. And that means emotionally and physically and spiritually. So I'm doing my best, just like I think we all are. So it's nice to hear from everybody and how they deal with things. And it's like, I think that, you know, communicating with people who are like-minded and are in the same scenario or situation as you will broaden your ability to understand the human condition. And I appreciate that very much. So.
Yeah, no, for sure. Thank you for
Here,
that.
here.
Yeah,
I'll drink to that.
absolutely. One of the things that's helped me with the feeling of guilt, because the feeling of guilt being away from the kids has always been really strong, is when your kids are seeing you live a life that you love and you are in joy in what you do, that is the best example you can give to them. So it's finding the balance of having a way to do that, and also them knowing that you're there for them, that you are, you know, present to them. That really helped me, because I always felt like a terrible mother. I feel like a terrible mother on most days, but, you know, if I was having to travel for music or, you know, stuff, I always felt really bad about it. But that little piece of advice just helped. And I was like, okay, this is actually parenting. Me choosing, you know, to live in joy and honor the gifts that I have is actually parenting, because I'm showing them how to do it, how to live their life, enjoy with their gifts, whatever that may be, you know. Let's talk about the creative for a second. So one of the challenges I feel is like shifting my mom brain to the creative brain. So like as a mom, I'm always like on. There's a feeling of you're kind of like on. You're ready for the next text, the next question, the next meal you have to make, the teacher conference, whatever it may be. And shifting into the creative space for me can, like, learning to go back and forth can be tough sometimes for me. How do you guys deal with that? JD, what do you do to get into the creative space?
Well, first of all, I truly believe to be a parent, you have to have a lot of creativity. So the creative is always going. I'm always trying to create a dinner that they're going to eat. I'm always trying to create a scenario where they're going to be able to get to bed on time or wake up and get to school. Like there's, you know, because I don't know, sometimes my kids just don't want to go to school. and we have to come up with ways of being really creative to get them to go to school, without getting like, you know, blowing up because I got a meeting or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm trying, I try to always, as far as my songwriting goes, I'm trying to always be writing. And I know maybe that sounds weird, but at least always be aware that ideas can come from anywhere.
Mhm.
And a lot of ideas come from my interactions with my kids. Although I don't write kids music, but it's more of, it's other things. But for me right now, truthfully, songwriting doesn't really happen unless everyone's out of the house, to be quite honest. Like I don't really actually get to work until they're gone.
Yeah.
Because if I'm making music, if I'm on my guitar, if I'm on whatever instrument here, they're gonna be here too. And then it becomes creative time, but not like work creative time.
Yeah.
It becomes that family time all of a sudden. So
Mhm.
it's, you know, and we also, you know, we also plan writing creative trips as within our touring schedules. So when there's a project, when we know we have to write a new record, then we're gonna block that time off and either go to Banff or go out east or wherever. Nashville, I haven't been to Nashville yet to write, but you know, it's in the works. But
That's
I don't know.
great.
So
Yeah,
so
that's
that's how we do it. I can't really get down to writing unless the kids are asleep, and it's hard to do it at night because they're sleeping, and I like to make a lot of noise.
Yeah.
But yeah, they have to be.
So,
They
yeah,
have to
like
be.
collecting the song ideas while you're in dad mode, and yeah, songs ideas come from everywhere, and kids.
Yeah,
have-
that's right. And that's I know I'm going back to the devices, but that's where the devices work for me because then I can like speak things into that or write things in my notes.
Yeah.
Just really quickly and casually, or weird things that my kids say, and I go, "Oh, this is going to make a great story," or "This is going to make a good song."
Yeah, they're great sources of ideas and inspiration.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for that. Everybody in the room here, just before we go to Celeste to get her thoughts on it, if you have a question and you just want to pop it into the chat, I'll get to anybody's questions after we get everybody's feedback on this. Celeste, what about you, the creative space and managing that?
Yeah, it's been hard, to be honest, since having Samuel, because I've been more inspired than ever, it seems, but I'm not finding the time to put it on paper, you know, or to grab the guitar and actually write a song for myself. And that's a really odd feeling, I find. So I'm kind of trying to navigate that and find a way to do that in the next, you know, few months or so. But I'm also trying to just accept that that's what it is right now, and then just trying to enjoy what is happening in front of me, and trying not to put pressure on myself, because I've always done that, saying, okay, I have to release an album, you know, and we tried to plan it that way, where we did release an album before being pregnant. So there's all that, just trying to figure out how I'm gonna find time to do it, I think. So I'm gonna listen to you guys really well and see how you did it.
Yeah, locking myself in my studio, and
Yeah.
like signs on the door now that say stop, do not enter, recording in process,
Yeah.
because they'll just come walking right through and you're in the middle of something, and then at the take you have to do again and stuff. So yeah, it's just figuring it out, you know, your boundaries and your places to do that. Maggie, what about you, especially with a really young one? It could be unpredictable, you know, the schedule.
Yeah, I feel like for me, like just having that schedule in place before is super helpful, because then I can mentally prepare myself, like, hey, 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. this day, like that's when I know I've set up care for my kid, and he's not my responsibility. I mean, he's always my responsibility, but I don't have to keep my eye on him then. And I can just really focus on whatever I need to work on. So having that is super helpful. And I also feel like, especially for me, when I can, like, because I record a lot of my stuff at home, I have like a home studio, but when I can do sessions out of the house with other people, I find that like extremely great, because it really helps me stay focused, being in a new environment, where I know my kid's safe at my house. and I can be somewhere else with like, you know, a team of 2 other people, like co-writers and producer. And it really helps me focus and just be in the moment there.
Yeah, being away in a different space.
Yeah,
huge.
for sure.
Thanks. Julian, how are you managing the
With creativity?
Yeah.
Jesus. I find it exceedingly difficult, to be honest. The way that I seem to work is I've tried to block time off to create things, and I find that for me, forcing it just doesn't really work. I mean, if I suppose if I was to be, if I'm supposed to be writing something for somebody else, it can work. And I've done that, and that's okay. Like if I sit down with people who are co-writing something with me, if I do a Zoom and it's a scheduled thing, but it's for a different purpose than for something that I would represent on my own, it's a lot easier for me. When it's something that represents something on my own, it's exceedingly difficult for me to even find what to actually write or talk about. And yet inspiration's around me all the time. So what I've come to do lately as a lyricist, because music doesn't really, that's the hardest thing for me. Music's kind of, it always is coming, but lyrics are really, really important to me. So basically what I have forced myself to do, whether it makes any sense or not, is as soon as I wake up, when I'm sort of half asleep, ideas run through my brain all the time, and that's probably where I come up with my best lyrics, actually. And if I have a chance, I usually have and I do have a chance because I forced myself to do this, but I usually have a pen and paper beside my bedside table or on the floor, and while I'm waking up, that's when I write something down. And before I go to sleep, I also write something down. It can be really short and really simple. At the same time, with my daughter, because she's 11 and she's sort of a creative type, I'll play a game with her in order to get her engaged in something. It's like she likes movies and stuff. So in order to find a time where I can do something as well, like, and she likes pottery, so I'll say, and I like drawing, so I'll say, we'll have a competition and we'll sit down and she'll do pottery and I'll sketch. Or I'll say to her, before we do anything else tonight, you know, you have to write a screenplay. And I have to, it's just a synopsis, like you have to write a 1-page movie before we do anything else. And then when she's doing that, she's engaged, and I get to just sit down and write some thoughts down as well. Most of the time, my thoughts are pretty useless, but at least something's coming out, and at least I'm flexing that muscle. Yeah.
I love that. I love that you encouraged her to engage as well in something creative. I love that. Pretty cool. Mine were all into hockey. Mine were
I like hockey.
Hockey players.
I've tried.
Anybody want to do music, but now they have, as adults, they finally come over to music. It just took them being adults. Okay, we have a couple questions coming to the end of this wonderful discussion. So from Caitlin, she's the first one's to Celeste. How has it been traveling with family and caregivers, the logistics, managing relationships, different caring styles? And I'm saying this with a smile because I was just with Caitlin down at FAI with little Ben, and we were having a bit of this conversation of how to manage being on the road with a little one. Do you have any words of advice or wisdom?
Yeah, I think I feel like we're very, very lucky, both sets of parents. Even though my parents live 8 hours away, they're all à la retraite, so they don't work anymore. They're I'm having a blank in my head.
Retired.
They're retired. Thank you.
Retired. Yeah.
And so that helps a lot, you know. So they are. And they're excited to see Sam, of course, because they don't see him every day. So that's been really helpful just on both ends. The relationship aspect, I feel like I have a lot of guilt sometimes because I'm like, okay, I'm really, like, say just this past week, we were doing a festival that involves a lot of schools all around Ontario. And it was an intense 4 days, and Sam got sick for the first time, but we really, both of us couldn't be there taking care of him. So I had my mom and my dad that were taking care of him. They got sick as well, but still we couldn't come help, you know. So that was a tough one to get over for sure. And So that's it's just that, yeah, I think the guilt of not being the person that can be there if ever he needs us, so that's a big thing. You mentioned the different parenting styles as well, but I think I'm just trying to learn all the tips and tricks that everyone's had different experiences. And I know for a fact that no matter who he's with, if it's with either of the sets of parents, I know that they're doing what's best for him. So I'm very lucky to be able to say that for sure.
Yeah, well, thanks for that. Yeah, the guilt is really tough. It can be tough to manage, but it's happening mostly in our minds, right?
Yeah.
The feeling of guilt and expectation, and it's the idea of the world looking in on us as a mother and kind of judging what we do, what we don't do, and then to navigate that. And the best thing I ever did for myself was get to the place where I'm like, I really don't care what anybody thinks. It's none of my business what anybody thinks of me, because they don't know my world, they don't know where I come from, and they're seeing me through their own filters anyway. So we can't, and that helped me with my feeling of guilt a little bit. Just doing the best you can, and your kids feel that you love them. What about the school thing? I'm going to throw this to JD and Julian, because you guys have kids who are school age. And so how are you managing being connected to school for your kids and being on the road and touring?
Well, my kids, my kids have the school that my kids go to, they have an online app that like the teacher runs it. So the teacher is putting some homework stuff on there. They're often posting videos or photos of in-class situations. We're basically always kept up to date on what's going on at the school, or like what activities they're doing and what they're learning and things like that. And then when I'm at home, I usually drop them off and pick them up when I'm not on the road. And also we rely heavily on daycare. They have after school programs and stuff like that. So we've kind of worked it out so it all it's a bit streamlined for us.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's funny. Ironically, one of the best things I guess about the pandemic would have been the change in how schools communicated online. So I would agree with JD there. I mean, there's a newsletter. There's definitely when they were in lockdown and everything was at home, the Google Classroom was very important as well. But so I pick up and drop off a lot as well, and tried. Other parents are a very great, good resource as well as to what's going on. And one of the other things is now she's old enough, and somebody told me this a long time ago, but she can sit in the front seat. And I remember being a child and being in the front seat with my parents. First of all, it was a joy because it felt like a graduation. But to parents, it's an interesting thing because it's the first time that they are basically sitting next to you with no real way to go anywhere. So it's a good opportunity to open up conversations gently and lightly. The front seat, the passenger seat.
I think you have another song in there, Julian.
Geez.
I got a few more years before they sit in the front seat.
Yeah, and I come from a generation where we didn't even really put seatbelts on our kids. We didn't even have these car seats or anything.
I remember being in the back of the station wagon.
Yeah.
With no seatbelts, just like pillows my mom made. Like cross-country trips. Like, how dangerous is that, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just conscious of time. And so I just want to thank you all so much for being here and offering your insights and sharing your experience as parents and artists. And I hope it was really helpful to the people listening now and anybody watching in the future. Yeah, it's just been a joy. I know most of your music. Maggie, I'm going to check out yours. And it's just been lovely talking with all of you. And I wish you the best with your music and with parenting and all that. I think Karim has a few last words.
Yes, thank you so much. What a great discussion. Excuse me. So yes, thank you so much for attending. This recording will be available along with the rest of our recordings on our YouTube channel, Ottawa MIC. You can do youtube.com/@OttawaMIC to find everything. We are also gearing up for the Capital Music Awards. Nominations are now open. If there is someone that you would love to show your support and celebrate in the Ottawa community, please consider nominating them. The ceremony will be on June 1st. And it will be a great time. We had a lovely time last year, and it's only going to be bigger and better this time around. If you're interested in knowing more about the CMAs, just look up ottawamic.com/CMA. I'll put all of this in the chat. Thank you so much, and yeah, I hope you all took something from this. I think I did, even if I'm far from having kids, but still.
You don't know that.
You never know.
Thank you so much. I'll put these links in the chat, and yeah.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone. Cheers.
Bye,
Yeah.
Byron.
Bye.
Great.